So, welcome to another episode of Profit Insights. And today I'm joined by Simon Brownhill. So, Simon is a director at DWL Partners, a cybersecurity leader with over 30 years of hard won experience at the sharp edge, very much the sharp end of the discipline. So, after 9 years as a weapons engineer in the Royal Navy, Simon transitioned into what was then called network engineering and has since led programs for some of the UK's most demanding organisations. So people like London Ambulance Service, major retailers, leading insurers. He's also built and established successful security practices with MSSPs. Simon has a rare ability, I've found, to bring cyber risks to life in a boardroom setting, translating very complex technical exposure into the language of risk appetite, commercial consequences, and pragmatic remediation. It's a skill that definitely most practitioners lack, and it's taken Simon all of 30 years to develop. DWL Partners, which is Simon's consultancy business, has been operating now for over 15 years with clear focus on supporting mid-market private equity firms. Now, Simon currently works across several portfolio companies in a fractional CISO and a fractional DPO capacity, a similar model to the one that we operate at Ithaca Cybersecurity, and a validation of the approach. So Simon's based in here where we're recording today in Somerset, and works across the UK, Europe, and the Middle East. So welcome to Profit Insights, Simon. Thank you very much for joining me today.
Thank you, Alex.
On a lovely summer's day in August. So that was a bit about you, but do you want to, in your own words, tell us what you've been up to lately then, Simon, and what your typical client base looks like at the moment?
Yeah, I think one of the things that I find interesting is what we were talking about previous to the recording is customers in PE houses are not necessarily buying cyber, what they're buying is confidence,
Yeah.
which is different from buying pieces of tin and those sort of things. So I work in a number of organizations where they have smaller IT teams, less understanding, less knowledge of cyber, and it's things that they've picked up along the way that they're trying to exercise on the company. But I think bringing somebody like myself in gives them a little bit more confidence and stops them from scurrying around trying to get technology to build the solution where,
Yeah.
and I'm sure we'll go into this later on, technology isn't always the answer. It's people, process, decisions. The better the decision, the better the outcome.
Okay. So you find your typical customer set is an introduction in at the moment from a private equity firm. I mean, are you seeing patterns around why people are coming to you and buying off of DWL at present?
Yeah, very much. The thing that I see is smaller organizations coming into the portfolio. They don't have any cyber or governance controls. They have some. Everybody has some. You don't cross the road blindly. Everybody has an understanding of which direction the traffic's coming from and how to cross the road. Cyber's very much the same. We need a firewall. We need some sort of control over access. We need those sort of things. And it usually falls down with the policies, the procedures, those sort of things. But to answer your question, why us? I think it's because we understand security matters. We understand keeps an investor awake at night, and it's not cyber, it's the maturity of the leadership, and that will be the cyber leadership as well. So how do we demonstrate what is good control?
Yeah.
Because we've got to remember, investment directors are not looking at TCP/IP, looking at all of the acronyms that are out there that we all flourish on. They want to know, is it red, amber, green? And if it's red, how red? Why is it red? What's the controls that we can put in place to bring that risk down?
Yeah. And are you seeing a common pattern? And I do certainly within the financial service space, where we have it's seen very much as an IT problem rather than an organizational problem, and it's for IT to own it rather than for the board. Or have we seen attitudes shifting over the past 5, 10 years or so?
Yeah, well, I cut my teeth a long time ago doing PCI DSS, and
Yeah.
I found a lot of that came from the first page of it was, have you got a firewall?
Mm.
This is an IT problem. And anyone who knows anything about PCI DSS, it's a financial problem. It's about taking credit cards. The IT bit is the first bit, which gave it the wrong uh, trajectory within an organization. Who needs to handle this? I read the first page.
Yeah, sure.
This is an IT problem.
Yeah.
And it's not. I mean, there are pen tests, there are scannings. Yeah, there are scannings. There's scanning. There's AV controls, those sort of things.
Mm.
But mainly, where is my data going to? Where does it live?
Mm.
How does it get there? What do we do to control that data to get there? None of these things are IT problems. They are just the custodians of that data.
Yeah. And so it's organization, people, and process, isn't it? Really, that kind of
Exactly. Yeah.
really throws it in.
Yeah.
And that certainly sits in with my background that's been within the NHS. It's kind of
Mm.
getting people to change and getting people to take ownership of technology as an enabler and not as a means to an end. It cuts right across the landscape, I think, really. So it's a yeah, interesting that it can still be put, squarely as a technical issue.
Mm.
What are the biggest problems you see where that do come up when that kind of attitude proliferates in an organization and you very much have siloed security, siloed IT, and the organization trying to work for it, or seeing it very much just as a service desk operation?
Yeah. I think most of the challenges within the PE world
Mm.
is the drive to be a lean operation.
Yeah.
So keep things in silos because we can monitor those and make sure that they. I think the bringing people together doesn't mean you have to have a fat group of individuals within the organization. I'm not saying everyone's chunky, but what I am saying is rather than having that wide depth of knowledge,
Yeah.
you need specific knowledge, yes. However, you need people that are aware of the business drive. And I think
Mm.
that's where a lot of IT problems come from is we're doing IT things. IT things means technology. It means what are we doing to protect the organization? But I think the business wants how are you going to support us? And I'm seeing this as a very big problem within organizations because IT have been the people that said no.
Yeah.
And I've always strived for people to understand who have worked for me, understand the problem. How are you going to support that?
Yeah.
Rather than, no, we can't do that because the person coming to you is usually coming to you with a solution.
Mm.
They're not the expert. We're the experts, and we're the ones who say, no, 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 no. You don't need a VPN. You need multi-factor authentication, or you need a process to
Yeah.
stop that.
Yeah.
And I talk about having guardrails with things like technical design authorities, not to stop people from doing things, but to gather the ideas, make sure they're in a central repository of knowledge,
Yeah. Sure.
and those technical people to support the business to ensure it's operating at full capacity rather than we'll go off, design something, we'll get some AI because
Yeah.
AI is cool.
Yeah.
We'll get that and that'll do what we want. And then we can get rid of people and we can get AI to do it.
Mm.
Yeah, but you and I both know getting AI to do something doesn't necessarily mean it's going to do it well. It's going to hallucinate and do something bad, or it's just not going to work.
Yeah. No, we'll come on to kind of the use of AI,
Mm,
as you've touched on it, because I think it's a really difficult one. We use it within really small enterprises at the moment, and it is fantastic. at the productivity outputs that you can get from it, and we can definitely see how the adoption is going to go and go. But I suppose it's similar to dealing with any other kind of vendor. Really, is it like, are the controls in place? What data are you sharing with it? Where is it? Where's that data going? And what kind of access is that getting to your systems? Really, is critical. I mean, uh, there's a lot about it in the press, isn't there? And it's been really the hot topic now for the past 3 or 4 years, since I think, was it 2022, the first kind of chat GPT that really kind of changed the world, kind of really landed on us. So it was just after the pandemic, wasn't it? In that period, how have you seen your day-to-day change, and what kind of controls are you seeing, if any, though that kind of mid-market business implement?
Yeah, I think people are, and I've suffered from this, using AI in help desks and using it for customer support.
Yeah.
And I think the danger is people don't know what it is. They think it's clever. They think it's something that's learning, something that's on the start of a long journey. And I think problem is they don't realize that when they punch some data into it, they don't know where it's going, and the businesses don't know where it's going. So you're right. Where is the sovereignty of my data? Because things like GDPR are requiring you to make sure that you know that flow of data. Where is it going to? How are you controlling it? Have you got permission to do that? Because there's legitimate interests and things like that, where if you don't do it right, the ICO are going to want to know, why did you put Simon Brownhill's data into ChatGPT or
Anthropic,
or DeepSeek,
exactly.
or whatever it is. And is it a legitimate engine that you're using? Because if it's not, and it's not closed off, and you haven't got control over it, then what? I find the other subject around hallucination, where it just makes an answer up that will please you, is the other issue.
It's trusting the information, isn't it? And then knowing where the data's going. And I've seen a lot of organizations put a kind of blanket no on using your chat GPT. It used to be Codex, it's now chat GPT work. It's bloody brilliant, by the way, if you haven't tried it. And then Anthropic's equivalent, and just going for Copilot. Now, of course, the Copilot, well, that's the background of Copilot, that's all on OpenAI's kind of bottom end as well. So it's a difficult one. I think a lot of organizations are grappling with at the moment. And you mentioned the machine learning, they're learning. I think the humans are learning just as slowly or quickly. And I think it will be a very, very long process. I don't think people realize how slowly, if you go through history, technology adoption has taken. Look at anything. You look at the Industrial Revolution. You look at agriculture. You look at military adoption. It takes 100 years plus to stop the white man waving the flag in front of the automobile.
I think you're right. AI is just a tool, and therefore, like any tool, it's only as good as the operator. So therefore, if you're going to use it and you don't know what it does at the back end, and you don't know how it works, you're going to get bad results.
No, it's very, very interesting. And it's coming back to the point I mentioned earlier around triggers. And there's two sides of cybersecurity, isn't there? There's the reactive, how crap, we've been hit by some ransomware, and how do I get Bitcoin now? Because I want to pay these people off, and how do I get my organization back on the rails? That's the reactive side of things. And then there's the piece that, of course, is the reason we're recording this podcast, and the reason that we go in and do our marketing throughout the industry, really, and really trying to get people to be proactive about it and take on services like yourself with a fractional CISO and things. Do you have any examples or any times where you've come in on on both sides of that coin, where you've come in to a bit of a disaster zone, or where you've come and you've been given the time to get the controls in, and you've had that more reactive, the more proactive approach. You kind of contrast the differences there.
Um, Answering your question, there's I've come in on both sides.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I have been a buyer, I've been a consultant, I've sat as head of security, I've sat as a CISO. I I think, where does the board learn from incidents? I think it's one of those ones where if it's a live fire exercise and people are getting
Mm.
the problems thrown up, however, we know where the dangers are and we're controlling that, is a lot different to being in an actual firefight where bullets are winging their way at you, and this is real things, and real things
Yeah.
have consequences.
Mm.
When you run an exercise and demonstrate this is what happens, and if it's going well, as I do in my exercises, take the linchpin out of the equation, and you're just going into the Channel Tunnel, and you're going to be in there because the train's going to get stuck,
Yeah.
so you can't talk to anybody.
Yeah.
Now what are you going to do?
Yeah.
That makes a difference, and that has a lot of impact on the board because they start thinking about, how do we do that? Oh, I didn't know there was an app to get to the insurance company on my phone. I haven't installed it because nobody's taken me down that road. But the
Mm.
exercise makes it real life, something that they're living and breathing at the time,
Yeah.
and therefore becomes something that becomes very sticky in the brain, and they understand, right. And I design playbooks and those sort of things around these exercises. So they're never going to be, bedtime reading, or they may help you sleep. But they will be good for the directors to understand, what would we do?
Yeah.
So you haven't got that linchpin dependency or key
Yeah.
person dependency.
Yeah. So, and the difference, you be coming into a bit of a disaster scenario. You've done that tabletop exercise. You understand, and the key output, so we can get it from a TTX, is you tell me, is the board knows their roles. Is that the main? Is it governance the main thing that comes through that, or is it more, like you say, the awareness piece? And
I
the
think it's the awareness. I think the board have roles. They they
sure,
they
you know,
understand. They know where their key area of operations is. And I find, I have one company that I'm working with, and their CISO just CISO, sorry, their CEO,
mm,
um, just was absolutely in his element in the exercise. We'll do this, we'll do that,
cool,
and that's great that you have that leadership, and that's why it's key to say to that person, right, next one we run, or during that one,
mm,
you're going to be unavailable, because you need to let other people, the
so,
swimming analogy, just come out of their depth a little bit so their toe isn't touching the floor, so
yeah,
that they can struggle, and that struggle makes you stronger, and therefore protects the organization.
yeah, great. So yeah, it's less single point of failure,
Mm.
and yeah, like, I mean, the in PE world they call it key person risk, and I guess it's the similar thing within cybersecurity, isn't it? That'll
Yeah,
it'll hurt your
yeah.
valuation. Are you seeing with your clients, so you've coming in and look more on the financial services side? The whole pitch with Ithaca really, and why we set it up was, I was seeing in the industry a lot of fear-based marketing, a lot of stuff that hits the headlines, the Co-op, the M&S, the Harrods,
Mm.
the um, uh, I noticed there's been some notable arrests recently, haven't there, within Scattered Spider and things.
Hmm.
So you've got all of this news outlet stuff going on, and then the industry trying to really jump off the back of that. And it's a bit like, it's not, the analogy is poor, but it's, if I was to be a salesperson, and it's almost like stand and deliver. It's that kind of approach to getting business on board, which, I suppose is a way of doing things, but more winning over hearts and minds, understanding that actually, if you've got your ISO 27001 in place and you don't just have it rubber stamped, as in, okay, we've got the certificate, what's the certificate number?
Hmm.
But we are living by those controls, or it could be Cyber Essentials Plus, it could be whatever we need to get the organization running smoothly. It's that operational efficiency and that control and that kind of grown upness, how that can impact, or it's not going to turn your exit multiple from a 10 to a 20, but it's going to help way shorten that due diligence process. And it's going to help really unlock the value and help, yeah, shorten things. If you've frankly kind of shown you've got that your shit together, really. And so targeting the PE side is definitely where we've come from within Ithaca. Have you seen that attitude proliferate in terms of it being a real value driver, or is it still seen as, oh, this is a tick box exercise, it's
Yeah.
compliance, and we do it to appease the investors, but we don't see the actual pounds and the pennies in the back of my pocket as a founder
Mm.
from investing the
So I think,
capital.
yeah, so number of points there, and I think all of them interesting. So I started doing this in the late 90s,
Right.
um, and it was very much, you need a firewall. Why? Because the hackers are coming to get you.
Mm.
You need um, mail sweeper or something like that to stop people sending all your information out. You need, and it's very much Chicken Little. The sky's falling in.
Mm.
That's not changed,
Mm.
and I find that really poor salesmanship.
Mm.
Trying to scare people into buying stuff is ambulance chasing. It's working on the back of Marks and Spencers, Harrods, JLR, whoever it is. There are a number of people out there selling the fear factor.
Yeah.
Now, I I don't think people need to buy because they're panicking, because panic buying, you end up with poor quality
Yeah.
and not the right solution. What they should be doing, and my view is this a behavioral change or is it a technology change from to make that difference at the far end? At
Mm.
that exit, I talk about having a market stall and you're a greengrocer, and what you're doing is you're shining the apples and making the company look more attractive.
Great.
Does that mean you need a new stall? Probably not, as long as it's not shabby. But as long as the product looks good and the value can be seen and people understand, I'm going to Simon's Apple stall because they're all shiny, they're all clean, there's no maggots.
Yeah.
That's what I
Nothing
want.
rotting.
There's nothing rotting,
Yeah.
exactly. So I think, if you were to give me £100,000 to invest in an organization in their cyber,
Mm.
would I buy a firewall? Would I buy a piece of tin? No, I'd probably make behavioral changes
Yes.
and patterns of demonstrable success. So good reporting, good outputs, keeping a track of what people are doing and turning technical speak into red, amber, green. Because again, things that keep investors and investment directors awake isn't the minutia, it's the bigger picture. Are we aligned to where the business is going? Are we shining those apples, or are we having a munch on a few and chucking the cores behind the stand?
Yeah.
What are we doing?
Yeah. No, it's a difficult one. And I think where you've come from, it's fantastic that you can see that kind of commercial benefit to the work that we're doing. And I think you're quite right. I think it's often missed within the industry. I think it's a really big missed opportunity, and it's getting that more, uh, getting the people that you're buying off to see the more positive, the value creation that you have. But unfortunately, yeah, I think we're all a kind of case in point of we are quite reactive. So, one of my businesses was awarded a framework award recently. We're going to have to, we've, dare I say it, we let our cyber essentials lapse because it wasn't needed really. Well, we've been awarded a place on the framework now, so we need to get our cyber
Yeah,
essentials in
yeah.
place. We're at the very, we're not the mid market. We're the very much the couple of £1 million turnover business.
Mm,
So
mm.
it's a much smaller, it's a side of things. So yeah, I think if we can push more on the value creation side, really going to help with a more proactive approach to just getting the right controls in place, basically, and making sure people aren't working off too many bad apples, as you
Mm.
say. An interesting point. I mean, do you find that people that take the reactive approach, they're the ones that are actually calling you, or the people that are doing all the fear-based marketing, they get the call when it's already gone wrong? Whereas one would think if you're trying to push on the value creation, you would hope that you're going to get that call when it's more of a commercial, like more of a strategic decision, and you're able to build more of a partnership with people.
Yeah.
And
So I think that's a good point. I think most of my work is with value creation teams
yeah,
within the PE house. So they've done some of this due diligence and understand the needs of the organization. And because I've worked so closely with a number of these PE houses,
yeah,
they know if they pick the phone up to me that it's going to be a safe pair of hands. They know good decision making is harder to build.
mm,
So you probably need somebody who can understand the business, understand what their capabilities are,
yeah,
and design a solution around that
yeah,
rather than a broad brush approach of one size fits all. We are not bespoke tailors. We are making something off the peg and making it made to measure, because otherwise, if you just got off the peg, it's going to be sloppy. If
mm,
you make to measure and tailor it in to fit that person, it's not as expensive as a bespoke suit.
yeah,
However, it feels good. It feels better than what they had, and therefore they look more presentable again.
yeah. And it's that presentable side. And I see on the commercial aspect, if you want to win bigger ticket stuff, if you're dealing with an organization that has a procurement department, for
Yeah.
example, which you see that'd be mid market into maybe a FTSE 350 organization, or more likely in the UK at the moment, certainly within the public sector. Um, you need these controls in place, and it will give your organization access to bigger ticket business, basically,
Mm.
than you would do otherwise. We're partnering with another business here in Taunton, actually, that's is a software vendor, and it's for the size of the business, because they're dealing with the NHS. It's Cyber Essentials Plus. It's 9,001 quality. It's 27,001 security. It's a full suite, a full investment from them, mainly a time investment, to kind of get it to get those, as you say, get those apples nice and polished, which is it's critical. I think if you want to be taken seriously, kind of commercially,
Yeah, and I think I'm
you see it
dealing
in
with
their
a
name.
couple of companies that are software based media companies.
Mm,
And I think one of the things you're talking about there is, good software development as well. So
true.
what are we making? How robust is it? Is it fit for purpose? What does it do with the data? Again, all of these things come down to control. And I think what most of these organizations are missing is good change control. So if you go to an ITIL framework, you know, nobody wants to go there because it can be quite arduous.
Yeah,
However, I find technical design authorities very useful within organizations to stop that brain leakage
yeah. With your change control
with your
processes.
change control process.
Yeah, absolutely.
It keeps everything in the right buckets, keeps everyone moving in the right directions, and stops that, as we said earlier, business solutions. Because business
Mm,
solutions are, I want to fix this. The only way I know that is what I did in my last company. And then you end up with the Swiss Army knife, and nobody knows what that little prongy thing on the back is for getting stones out of horses' hooves. That's a
yeah,
marlin spike, and we're not putting any sales together or doing anything with candle
absolutely. Yeah,
canvas.
I think just also technical, design authorities, change groups, whatever you call them, change board. Yeah, it can very basically just come down to good corporate governance as well. So, does this product line up with our vision, basically, and what we're set out to do? Which isn't, it's not so much a security
Mm,
issue; it's just a staying core to the vision side of things.
yeah.
And we touched on that, and you present very well as a communicator and someone that would be able to, I guess, do the TTX and get boards on board and see it more as I love your analogy, a shining apples kind of
Mm,
role rather than
mm.
a technical role. Where do you see, or where have you seen other heads of IT, heads of departments, uh, heads of security, and perhaps even IT directors and so-called CIOs? Where have you seen them get it wrong in their messaging? Where you think you might not, you can get it right?
Yeah, and I think the thing is boards deal with risk,
Mm,
whether
fair,
it's financial risk,
fair.
whether it's technical risk, whether they understand risk and they understand threats to the organization. One of the things I'm building at the moment for my clients is threat assessments, so that they understand why would they be compromised, why would somebody attack
Mm,
them, why why would this happen to me? Because is you know if we go back to our teenage years, that first breakup, why me? Why did this happen to me? Oh my God. And as you get experience in life, you understand that it happens to everybody.
yes,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
They're just things that happen. But if you're a bit of a lad or, you know, think more bad things happen to you because you're that character.
sure.
So if you don't change your operation, it will continue to happen. So it's about identifying the behaviors of your organization,
Mm,
the types of people that you're attracting, the types of individuals you're attracting, and then where are you vulnerable? So,
mm,
but without knowing these things, the board will quite merrily go along doing these things, and they could be working with, I don't know, life science, they could be working in pharmaceuticals, they could be working in something dairy. There could be people that just don't like what you are doing,
yeah,
and therefore your threat profile will be totally different to my favorite company, Joe's Banjo Shop, who have two people just make banjos.
yeah,
They're not going to cause anybody any grief unless you don't like banjos. And then
sure.
their threat's different to, I don't know, ABC Dairies,
Yeah,
where
no,
vegans don't want them to be doing this, and therefore they have some sort of guerrilla group of
yeah,
vegans that want to attack them.
yeah.
So, why
Can be tribal, can't it? Yeah, and
exactly?
it's hugely. I mean, I found this with the conversations I've been having. It is hugely industry specific as to which controls are pragmatic to your organisation, and it's not just about the products you're offering. Hedge funds, for example, I know go after each other deliberately. They try and nick each other's algorithms. There is a
Yeah,
whole
yeah,
back and forth
yeah.
going there in terms of um, yeah, a bit of tit for tat. But within London, within New York, within the financial services, um, yeah. Whereas there's a whole raft of real reasons as to why people
But I think
kind
you're,
of
I think you're
work on
right
that
there.
stage.
Sorry to interrupt you. I
Mm,
think you're right. I think you know, cyber problems are often leadership problems
mm,
because there's not enough investment. And this is what I'm saying about the CISO and the head of it's they present themselves through technology because they've built a product catalog.
yeah,
These are the things that will get us to Oz. We're going to end up in the right place if we put the firewall, the Minesweeper, the uh, IPS. We're going to put all of these things in place, and we'll be in the land of milk and honey.
yeah,
I think my favorite observation on this is that cyber problems and issues, the biggest vulnerability is not in the server room, it's in the boardroom
mm,
because all the decisions go up there
mm,
and the information that goes to them can be sent with rose colored glasses. So they're looking at this and going, oh, we're in a good place. We've got all of these things in place. Yeah, but nobody's there saying, what about this?
yeah,
If we look at everything and you're presented with everything and it's all green and it's, yep, we're all green. I've never worked in an organization where everything's green. It doesn't work like that. The military, they've always got red. You know, there's always red there because there's always a new threat. There's always a new vulnerability. There's always a new potential enemy
yeah,
in business. Like we've just said, there are threat actors out there
mm,
that just don't like you.
yeah,
Or there's some sort of kudos to be had by taking you out. I've taken down the biggest
Yeah,
retailer in the country.
yeah,
Aren't I brilliant?
yeah. We saw that with the recent arrest, didn't we? I think,
Hmm.
and he's been sentenced 5 years. One of the scattered spider branch, and it's interesting the threats now. Well, they are obviously coming from the east of the old Berlin Wall, but yeah, I think this guy who got arrested was not quite a teenager, but in his early 20s. White middle class, sort of just a bit of a recluse, a bit of a
Mm.
coming out, but he was very much doing it. Like you said, I think he was responsible for it was either Harrods or the co-op attack. I think it might be the
Mm.
co-op attack. No, TFL it was. Yeah, taking
Mm.
out TFL, and doing it for the kudos, like you say. So just social recognition amongst peers. I mean, how many of us can relate to that? All of us, hopefully. We're all
Yeah.
humans. We're
Yeah.
all social beings. It's about motivation and doing it for the right thing. And I think and it's not just unique to your services, Simon, but getting an external eyes on that hasn't been in the organisation and doesn't necessarily have. There's always that temptation as the substantive head of IT pushing for a promotion or looking for that to be slightly the sycophant and to slightly, play up
Yeah.
to what does the CFO want to hear? What does the CEO want to hear? Whereas if you're certainly if you've come in on a fixed fee basis and you're an external, you can be really quiet. You can push your weight around quite a bit more
Hmm.
than if you were definitely having to kind of adhere. And like you say, it's all about the management. It depends on the personalities at the top and how susceptible they can be to flattery, certainly sometimes. But there's a real value in just getting an external pair of eyes in to say, um, where are our controls? What are we doing? Where are our big risks? And what can we do about it, really? Which is, the pitch
Mm.
for a fractional CISO in my book.
Yeah, and I try to tell organizations as well, have your own DPO. That
Mm,
DPO needs to have that stickiness within your organization. So their contract should reflect the fact you can't just get rid of them because they give you bad news.
yeah,
This is something people don't really understand is they need to have that capability to challenge the ball, to challenge decisions, to say, you can't do that.
yeah,
Because if that's there and they feel empowered to do that, you've got a better guard dog.
yeah,
If you just keep chastising and putting it in a cage and that's it, you stay back there, just woof if somebody breaks in. No, you want somebody who's going to protect you and make sure that you are operating within the parameters you should be operating. So you're right, an external, I will challenge people and I will say, you can't do that, but you need your own safeguards.
mm.
You can't have.
You're only there 2 days a month or whatever it is,
Exactly,
aren't you? Yeah,
exactly. I
yeah.
like to use the analogy you wouldn't use a Bentley to be your Uber. I'm not
Can
saying
be a
I'm a
nice
Bentley.
Uber, yeah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But I'm not saying I'm a Bentley, but I'm saying I'm expensive. And
yeah,
if I was there the whole time doing this to you, you're not getting the benefit of me because I'm doing mundane stuff and stuff that your people should be able to do rather than letting me exercise my brain muscles and help you to challenge bigger problems and look at strategy and things like that, which is a better use of my time and
yeah,
a better,
definitely.
more valuable to you as an organization. But there is a lot of this. We need a security person, and I try to move them away from that and get them to stand on their own 2 feet and deliver their own because, yeah,
Yeah,
you don't want me hanging around for a long
no,
time.
any organisation needs to own it. It has to be cultural. It has to be that constant. There has to be a constant physical presence really there of someone that's really going to make sure things are getting adhered to, and the
Mm.
organisation can really work. I think that's really 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 important. The industry's seen a good I'd say a good turnaround in 2026. I mean, how's it been in your books for the past sort of 12 months or so? It's been
Good.
we've been speaking
Yeah.
for 3 or 4 years now,
Mm.
and doing a bit of business together, haven't we?
Yeah, I think I don't know what you know. The investment cycle. I've been doing this for a number of years.
Mm.
It has its peaks and troughs. School holidays it seems to crash down.
Yeah,
Christmas it
gives you
crashes
time for
down.
podcast recordings at least.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, exactly. But then with some of the virtual work, it makes it more. sort of smoother.
Mm,
But I think, yeah, I still think I'm seeing the same issues, the same problems
mm,
coming through. And I think the problem is the due diligence process doesn't always identify the issues to the investment directors.
no,
And I think that's a little bit back to what you were saying about that sort of sycophantic, you want to hear these things and
absolutely.
we'll make you look better, company B, because you want to be sold, so we're going to make you look really good. But the evidence, again, needs to be challenged a little bit more. Shelfware, policies that haven't been looked at. I looked at a customer that I did some work for before they were onboarded to a PE house. They asked me to go back and look at the documentation and those sort of things. And I looked at it, and it had my name and the date that I
Yeah,
did
you
it
mentioned yesterday.
3 years ago. And is that good governance? No.
No, I got to be honest. I was re-uploading a business continuity plan for a particular framework the other week, and did I look into it in loads of detail?
Mm-hmm.
Did I change the dates on it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
We're all guilty of it.
Well,
We've all got a P&L to manage, frankly. So
exactly.
it's a case
Yeah.
of
Yeah.
yeah, having kind of pragmatic controls on things.
But this is where technology is good. So technology and AI and reminders, and we should look at this, and meetings set up and that sort of stuff. That's good for something like AI. Set me up a framework to manage, or set me up some meetings and a way to manage this framework. Great, that's good.
Yeah, yeah,
Not write me the policy,
no,
but help me manage the organization of it. Help me manage making things slicker. I like to
mm,
say, frictionless management of systems, frictionless management of your organization, because if it's just smooth and travels well, it's people will adopt it. As
yeah,
soon as security gets hard, they try to go around the side of it.
absolutely,
So with anything, we all do it. Nobody wants difficult in their life. They want easy.
yeah,
And easy goes back to the analogy, the acronym that I used from the 90s. Keep it simple, stupid. KISS. Just keep it simple, because this is where technology and all of these things, it's not the best way of doing things by making it unique. It's not the best way of. I like to get things technology wise or idea wise that I can go to Tesco's and throw a tin can at somebody and it hit them, and I know they'll know a Cisco firewall, they'll know Microsoft, they'll know Google, whatever it is, they'll know it.
yeah,
But then going to get, I don't know, Abacus Security's latest, what is it?
mm,
I'll need to go shopping for a person that understands that. So therefore, it becomes more expensive. And that person becomes an overhead because
mm,
we want to move away from it. They're entrenched in it. They would never move away from it. Is that the best direction for the business? No.
no.
I mean, yeah.
Yeah, you get a lot within IT in general as well around, especially within the size of organizations we're working with, which we touched on it earlier around key person risk. But you gave the
Mm,
example of a CEO just running the show on a TTX. Well, there's a lot of heads of IT, technical people. They do frankly hold the organisation to ransom,
hmm.
a bit like the London Underground does with
Yeah.
their with their strikes. Um, because they've got all of that knowledge. It's all up here, or is it on? It's on a SharePoint file somewhere on some spreadsheets.
Mm.
But really, it's going to be a pain to get that out of the organisation if they go. And where are we moving with it? So there's loads. Yeah, I'm going tangentially there, but there's loads
I
to push around there really
Yeah, but I
before
think
we
you're right.
close.
I think having a working management system and then having a set of templates is easy to spot. And the person who is trying to hold the company to ransom
Mm.
somewhat is very much akin to when you're doing your GCSEs and you've got your arm around the paper and you're just scribbling it all
Right,
down.
I was definitely the guy looking over my shoulder, not that side.
Exactly,
Yeah.
and we all are, and I think we all want to know the answer, and we all want reassurance. So if you're open and transparent, people will adopt it.
Yeah.
People will understand it, and there's no fear. I use things like the accountability tracker from the ICO
Yeah.
for
We've used that before. Yeah.
for doing DPO work or doing GDPR audits. Why? And why do I tell people? It's not. I don't say it's a secret, but if I
No.
designed something myself,
Yeah.
it would be bespoke to me, and therefore, should one of the other companies that work with the PE houses adopt it or adopt their own, then how are we going to measure again fruit and veg,
Yeah.
apples and apples, not apples and
No,
oranges?
you do. Yeah.
So I think being open and transparent about using these things is good. It's about the interpretation of the data, sure. However, why not use the same benchmark?
Yeah.
You know, we're using CSF or we're using
Yeah.
NIST or whatever it is. That's fine. Use it, but tell people what you're using and why,
Mm.
rather than putting your arm around it and then
Yeah.
nobody knows.
I think you've touched on something that's very basic there as well in terms of simply engaging with a services business. Now, you notice I'm getting it wrong because I've got paint on my fingernails at the moment. Because yeah, I've been just putting like the 17th coat of paint on my daughter's bedroom this morning. But yeah, there is that case of, okay, well, what's your hourly rate? And that's easier to quantify for a salesperson like myself than it is for an IT director, certainly. But a lot of the stuff we come in to do, in theory, a good experienced IT director, they can do it, or they can do it, maybe 5, 6 out of 10 as well as we can do it.
Hmm.
But it really is a case of, because we can all download the GDPR kind of accountability tracker, and
Hmm.
we can run through a list of questions with our stakeholders, and most of us with a level of competency can kind of run through that space. But do you have the time in the day, frankly, and where is your time best spent? Where is it most valuable? I think that's it's always something to have in the back of your mind when you're looking for any kind of services takeoff, really. Um, to close off then, Simon, with you, and obviously where we're both, we've got synergy between our businesses with Ithaca and within DWL, really looking at that mid-market private equity within the UK with
Mm.
your experience network there. If we have an operating partner listening in on this podcast, what's the one piece of advice that you would give them in our sphere that you think could add the most value to their portcos?
Yeah, well, following on from your point you just made about cost,
Yeah.
and people go to the race to the bottom, I
Mm.
think the cheapest proposal is often the most expensive decision, because somebody has to come in and pick the pieces up when it all falls apart. It was cheap at the time, but buy cheap, buy twice.
Yeah.
That's one of the things where I find people struggle. Um, and I think I've covered quite a lot of the other bits where I feel, what are uh, what are the key gotchas? I think, like I say, the boardroom is key to all of this. Um, and I think I opened with the cyber isn't the investment director is buying.
Hmm.
You know, confidence is.
Yeah.
It is that
True.
that is.
The confidence.
I talk about assurance, but assurance is what you need
Mm.
to give a reassurance, because
Mm.
that's what they want. They would just want to know that the wings aren't going to fall off the plane. They want to know, will we get there? They're the things that people want to buy, and I think it's about the leadership. I think that's the key. Is invite the CISO. I've seen a lot of CISOs,
Mm.
CISOs in waiting. The
Mm.
next best CISO in the UK. They're all sat outside the boardroom, kicking their heels, waiting to be called into the headmaster's office
Yeah, sure. So they can do their five
so they can
minutes.
do their
Mm.
bit. And it's almost like, come on, hurry up.
Mm.
We've got grown-up stuff to talk around,
Mm.
and then they go off and talk about the business. Why is that person not at the table listening? Because I find my benefit is to bring the benefit of having me, sorry, is to hear these conversations, to pick up on the risk, because I can do a risk assessment on the fly in my mind to protect the organization. Whereas it's a good idea. We've all thrashed it about. We've had a good idea. You run away. They go and start developing this thing, and then they say, "Well, just have a look at this. We're going to do this next week."
Yeah.
And it's like, "Oh, you can't do that because it's dangerous." "Oh, you're a blocker. Just go around him."
Yeah. Yeah, it's still like you can go around people just as you can go around, try and find your way around MFA because
Mm,
my authenticator app's not working this morning. Oh, I can't get a text message done or something. It's
mm,
kind of
mm,
it's getting that workaround. But I think the key message you gave there really was confidence, and that's a really really critical part. And for an OP, it's giving the LPs confidence that you're doing responsible stuff with their
mm,
cash, and it's not all
mm.
going to fall away in about 5 minutes' time. So it's no, it's really, really good, really, really interesting talking with you today, Simon. Where can people find you if they need to reach out direct?
Oh, yeah. If only I could get my website built. I'm just yeah, terrible for that.
Yeah,
But
you're on
so
LinkedIn, aren't you?
I'm on LinkedIn, Simon at DWL Partners.
Cool.
Um, Again, so cybersecurity isn't really about cybersecurity, it's about people, process, and understanding strategy of the businesses.
Yeah, great, cool. Well,
Okay.
I'll put some links to all of your socials and everything
Yeah,
in
lovely. Thank you.
in the comments on this.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's been good to catch up.
Yeah,
We'll
brilliant.
see you again in a few weeks.
Thanks very much, Alex.
Cheers.
Cheers.